Hello everyone. Let me begin with an announcement. On 2nd July, Tuesday, we are starting our ethics case study answer writing workshops. So before the classes, this session is all about giving you a broad idea on what exactly are we going to discuss in these sessions. So ethics case study, as you may be already aware, it's almost half of the syllabus. If you go by the trend, 6 questions you are getting of 20 marks. 120 marks of 250 ethics marks is from ethics case studies. Let's understand what are the things you should never compromise in preparation in writing case studies. So the first thing, any subject you are taking, not just ethics or case studies, first understand the bounds, understand the mind map. What exactly you should study in this subject? How much exactly you should be aware of? What is the breadth, depth of the syllabus or the questions that is being asked in the paper? And for ethics case studies, we already have this Bible of last 11 years case studies. If you look at the last 11 years case study, you'd see this 4-5 specific areas on which questions have been repeatedly coming. Which are these areas? Questions on ethical personal issues. What is this personal issues? Suppose you've seen an accident, your boss is also involved. Now in this situation, the boss is forcing you to give false testimony, or boss is forcing you to give false testimony to the police, to the insurance company. So you are facing an ethical dilemma. What you will do in this situation? Cases like you are going for UPSC interview and you've seen somebody in an accident situation. What exactly you are going to, how you are going to handle this situation? Cases like this were personal dilemma, the personal conflict that is under major dominance part, or addressing this conflict is the major part of the answer. Secondly, you have a lot of questions from public sector case studies related to corruption, various factors indulging related to corruption, where your boss is doing corruption, your colleagues is doing corruption, these kind of case studies. Rule adherence versus compassion, where you see old couple reaches you, they're really in need of help, but when you look at the procedures or rules, then this couple is ineligible to get XYZ benefit from the scheme. So as a civil servant, what will be your response in this situation? Hierarchy, systemic issues, your boss is not listening to you, or you have reported something and boss has completely overruled this or given you some unethical guidance or instruction, and what will be your, how will you handle the situation? Work culture issues, politicization, political interference in bureaucratic decision making, compensation related case like 2022, we had a case study related to this where a driver created an accident, and since the driver was having drunken, they were not, the state road transport corporation was not giving the compensation, and it lead to strikes and public interest is coming in conflict. So how will you handle this compensation issue? Disaster management related case studies. 2023, you had this case study of the disaster happened and a woman, pregnant woman, is losing blood and is under critical situation. When you ask doctors to do the blood transfusion, they told that there are some laws which only allows blood transfusion from authorized blood banks. People are willing to give blood, system is there, but there is some rule stopping from this from happening, and you are in charge and you are the civil servant, and what will be your decision in these cases? So these kind of case studies are coming from public sector related case studies. Similarly, a lot of case studies from private sector work culture issues, private sector is polluting, doing some pollution, or private sector, the company management is tweaking some unethical decisions. Similar kind of reflections you can find in private sector related case studies also. But one thing you should very much keep in mind, what values are guiding your decisions in public sector is completely different from what values that should guide your decision in private sector. Here what is important, people's interest or people first attitude is important. Here integrity is important. Here hierarchy is very much important. When it comes to private sector, profitability is a very critical factor which you should never miss out. But you cannot write profit as a criteria or argument in public sector related case studies, because their profit is not the primary motive, but the public interest, serving public interest is the primary motive. Similarly, you can see different, like efficiency is much more important factor in public sector, private sector related case studies. So the values are different in both these. You should have a clear idea of what exactly are the values guiding in both these sectors, and your decisions, your arguments should be based on these values. Similarly, you will see a lot of case study related to social issues and applied ethics, like development challenges, displacement is happening, what should be the decision making to be taken, protest is happening against cutting of trees, what should be your decisions, gender related ethics question, caste related issue questions, social media and technology ethics, like you last 2023 we had a question on this where some students posted a video and where it was promoting something like a twisted fake news kind of things, then how you will respond to this. Similarly, environment related case studies. In these case studies, you should know the specific details. Here you should, in environmental case study, you should be able to write common but differentiated responsibilities. In gender related case study, you should be able to understand the POSH Act. There are underlying SOPs for handling the conflict. You should be aware of these underlying SOPs, underlying laws, underlying, you can say, rules, regulations that is existing in different cases. I know it may look little superficial, but if you conclude, these are the 10 points you should keep in mind while answering any of these case study. First thing, that is, read case study very carefully. Lot of times a lot of information is given in the case studies, lot of stakeholders. Case study is relating to something related to public sector, but there will be a reference of children going to school, there will be a reference of an ailing mother. So you should not miss out these cases. Sometimes intent will be given. Sometimes you are an officer with 20 years of experience, you should be given. So you should not miss out this element of 20 years of experience with upright officer. So you should not miss out these key elements while reading the case studies. That is the first thing I need to convey to you. Second, bring all stakeholders. Like, I know students have this general framework of putting stakeholder diagram and listing all the stakeholders in the first. Be a little bit cautious regarding this. Stakeholder, you should bring all your stakeholders in your arguments. You should not miss any of the stakeholders. But it doesn't mean that for every question you need to put this stakeholder diagram or list all the stakeholders. No, it is not necessary. For those questions where there is same set of stakeholders that is existing, for example, the corporate sector related case studies, for stakeholders are not going to change too much, or the case studies where it is too lengthy or too complex, where you think that some kind of like structuring you will get after listing all the stakeholders. In these kind of case studies, you should put stakeholders. Otherwise, don't make it a norm that in every 6 case studies, I will start the case study by putting no stakeholders. No, that is not the right way to start your answer. Understand context and core values. As I already discussed, the core values of public sector is different. The core values of private sector is different. The core values, if question is on social issues or applied ethics, is different for different situation. So you should understand the broad values. What are the broad values that should guide decision making? Similarly, address core and peripheral issues. We will see different cases of this in the next example case study. Sometimes the case study is regarding corruption, but that doesn't mean that you completely miss out the peripheral issues. Sometimes it is about whistleblowing, but there is issues associated with whistleblowing. There are systemic issues of whistleblowing. So you should address all these peripheral issues associated with the case studies also. Should not limit your issues to only core issues. Core issues, everyone will be writing. So there is high chances that you will see the main conflict is this, you write about this. No, there should be, you should extrapolate this to how it is as an organization. Like, when we write a way forward, one term, what decisions you will take in this situation. Your decisions always should have immediate steps. I'm going to take this, and long-term organizational changes. These are the reforms I need to implement. Similarly, know your limits, rules, and SOPs. As I already told, for gender related case study, you should mention about POSH Act. If disaster related case study, you should know what is the SOPs in a disaster management situation. Similarly, the compensation, there are rules regarding compensation which you should be aware about. Similarly, know your limits is very much important. Suppose you are a DM and you have to consider, you are suppose an SP of a office and you have to consider a law and order situation. You have to handle a law and order situation. You cannot take steps that is beyond your control or beyond your power limits. For example, implementing section 144, this is a power with administration, with the district magistrate. So as a police officer, you don't have the power to do this. So when you are told you are a police officer, your power is limited to what a police officer can do. So your answer writing, your options, your arguments, all should be limited to these aspects. You should not, if you are a civilian, you should not take options like I will change the whole system. Or if you're a DM, you will not give suggestions like I will change the whole policy structure, because policy structure is decided at much higher level, at state level, at central level. As a DM of a district, you don't have the powers to do this. You can give advisory note, you can dissent with certain part of the policies, you can report this, that all steps you can do, but you cannot change it whole and all. So limits of your power, rules associated with this, SOPs to different situations which we have discussed before. Similarly, avoid unethical and trivial options and not overdo merits and demerits. So what is this unethical option? I know every one of you might be aware of that. What is the unethical options in this particular situation? In XYZ case study, you are not going to select unethical situation, and whatever is the temptation as a civil servant, as an individual, you are not going to violate. You should also always give ultimate importance to law. Your laws are not supposed to be violated, and when situation like whistleblowing where you have to violate certain part of the rules, you should undergo some checklist, undergo some protocols to why you are violating these XYZ rules. So this you should keep in mind. Similarly, trivial options like I will change the whole mindset of people against this child labor. So this is not going to happen. What the examiner is interested, he is interested in what is the exact steps you are going to take for this. So whenever you are giving suggestions, don't give from a superficial point of view, give specific steps you are going to take. Similarly, no superficial solution. Clear arguments and guidance for your decision. You can use quotations, you can use different theories like we already discussed, utilitarianism, you can use deontology, you can use rights approach, justice approach, you can use conscience, you can use Gandhi's 7 scenes. These are like a umbrella of areas which you can actually use in as your base for your arguments in case studies. Similar frameworks we have used in section A, all you can bring to make your arguments. Similarly, address the consequences of your decisions. Like whatever decisions you are going to take, there will be XYZ consequences for this. Completely don't leave these consequences. Address these consequences. If you are saving the life of a person who met with an accident, say that it is more important to save the life because I cannot live with the regret of not saving the life if tomorrow he dies or something like that happened to him. I cannot live with the regret of not helping this person. So you should bring whatever decision you are taking, you should also address these are the consequences. If there is some steps to be taken to address the consequences, if you are taking whistleblowing, there are some protection measures you should take. Similarly, if there is a conscience related question, you should write about this is what my conscience is saying and this is what important to me. But you should always address what are the consequences of whatever decision making you are going to take. The last point which is not coming here, that is time management. Again, sorry, what is more important in case studies? Exactly completing the case study in time, at least for reading, for doing stakeholder analysis, for writing 4 pages, you are getting almost 15 minutes for one case study. So it is very much challenging. So what we are going to do here is we will provide you with model answers, what is model arguments, what is model suggestions, what is model, how you can relate theories, relate keywords in answer writing in this different conflicts, different themes we have discussed. So once you go through these model answers, once you prepare these 12, 14 case studies, you will be very much confident that whatever is the case that is coming in the exam or in the test series, you simply have to identify which model to take and try to replicate this. There should not be too much of time that is to be spent on brainstorming for each and every case study. Similarly, another approach, you can see how to do the comprehension in a tactical way. We'll discuss this in the class so that we can just complete the case study by reading once itself. Let's do an example. Read this case study and we will try to answer or try to see whatever we have discussed through this case study. Yeah, I hope you have gone through the case study. So, what is this case study about? Yeah. So, what is the things you should take into consideration? You can pause the video and complete the case study if you haven't gone through. So, we know this is an honest officer. You can see here, he has been subjected to different transfers and has an upright attitude. So, his character is clear here. So, this should be reflected in this case study. Chairman is a powerful politician. He's Road Transport Corporation chairman is a powerful politician and very close to chief minister. So there is chance for politicization. Vinod comes to know about certain irregularities within the corporation. Board member of opposite party meets Vinod and hands over few documents along with a video recording in which chairman appears to be demanding bribe and placing a huge order for supply of Q-matters. So there is a video being presented as proof. Vinod confirms the board why he is not shying away from exposing the chairman. So-called solid proof with him. The members inform him that chairman refuses to yield to his threats. He adds that Vinod may earn recognition and public support if he himself exposes the chairman. Further, he tells Vinod that once his party comes to the power, his professional growth will be assured. So there is something that is, you can say, carrot and stick. That is, there are some carrots put before Vinod to expose this corruption of this. What is the purpose of putting all these details? The story is over here itself. You know what is the context of the case. Why is putting this statement? Why is there is a question of intent? Now, in answering this case study, everyone knows what exactly. This is a case study related to whistleblowing. How should the chairman be exposed? And everyone knows this is the right thing to do. But since there is an intent, there is some carrots given, you should address this in your answer writing. Why you should expose this XYZ politician or the chairman of this State Road Transport Corporation? Because it is in public interest. Because it serves, it is in according to the rules and regulations, conduct rules which you are functioning. So these why exactly you are taking your decisions should not be based on popularity, should not be based on personal perks that is coming out of this. We know this, aware of all this, the next XYZ arguments is given. So as I told you, reading should be very clear. Each and every argument, dimension, stakeholder, you should be well aware of why this is put, what are the underlying arguments, intentions behind this, motivations behind this. Bring all the stakeholders. Public should be, if it's a public sector related case studies, you can never take out the element of public, and public should come into your answer writing. Similarly, understand core values. Core values is, here there is political context. Core values is integrity, accountability, transparency, dedication to public service. Core and peripheral issues. You can say core issue is the, should we know the expose the chairman's corruption. Now, what is peripheral issues? You should never miss out. Elections are there. Then this opposition member is coming to you. So what is the motivation of the board member? What are the systemic issues? There is the work culture issues within this organization. If you expose the corruption, how it will impact the functioning of the organization? What should be the intent of the civil servant if he is exposing the corruption? All these elements should reflect in your answer. Know your limit. Like if you are reporting a corruption, you should know about how to report a corruption, where a public officer should report a corruption, what are the anti-corruption agencies you can report to, what are the legal rights you have, if you are whistleblowing, what are the legal rights you should have. So all this broad picture you should be well aware of. No scope for ignoring the issue, like you should not write trivial options and minor administrative actions like confronting the XYZ chairman. This is not the solution here. You should take legal steps. That is the actual solution only existing. No superficial solutions like avoid advice and advocacy is not going to work. Again, you can write like whistleblowing is the case, but you can see that whistleblowing is of different types. There is internal whistleblowing, there is external whistleblowing, there is whistleblowing within the XYZ organization. So what exactly are you going to do? How are you exactly going to manage this? So this is different types of whistleblowing. This should form the crux of your options you are generating for this. Similarly, provide clear arguments. What will happen if you are whistleblowing through this channels? What will be the consequences? There will be political backlash. There can be a risk to your professional career. There can be other risks associated with this. What are the basic SOPs when you are whistleblowing? The first thing you should do is not just go and report this case. First thing is you should do is what you should address, what you should verify the facts of this case. You should verify whether this video is correct, whether this whatever proof you have is actual or not, or is it forged or it is malicious. You should confirm this, then only you should go to take your actions. Then you can give virtue ethics, deontology, utilitarianism, justice, rights, conscience, Gandhi 7 sins. Civil servants, you can write about Ashok Kinka, you should write about Satyendra Dubey, different civil servants, leaders, reformers, you can speak about, address consequences of your action, and time and space management is also very much important. So this is how you think on a case studies. Now, what are the exact factual information you should know? What are the exact information, exact way you should write the answer, all these, what are the exact options you can generate in this case, all these things we are going to discuss Tuesday. That is 5 o'clock, you come and write the case study. 6:30 we will be having the discussion classes. If one thing that you can take away from all this discussion, all in case studies, is where does the case study marks lies? Because case study, in whole case study, you can see the marks lies in one single aspect. Everyone knows what action to take, what decision to take, what is ethical thing to do, what is non-ethical thing to do, and nobody is going to write non-ethical thing as the right thing. But the differencing between a good scoring student and not so good scoring student lies in justification. How much clear and concise justification you can provide for your decision making at every different stages. So this is going to make your difference in your ethics marks. So I hope things are clear, and I hope to see you all in the class on Tuesday, 2nd July, 6:30 p.m.